Welcome to the Evergreen Creative Company Podcast. We like to call it the Evergreen Creative Podcast. It's a little bit shorter to say, but our main goal for this podcast is to share our experiences as a company through the projects that we work on a weekly basis. Whether you're a client or another creator, you're going to get to hear our experiences from each project that we work on. So if you find value from this podcast, please leave a review and also share this with your friends and colleagues. So funny story is, yeah.
We're professionals, we promise.
No one's going to hear what Kristen said, though.
Oh, yep.
All right, let's just recap and start from the top. I'm so sorry, guys. Fortunately, I mean, there's dadgummit. This sucks.
Monday.
And Emmett's not even here. We didn't even have to.
You can always come pick them up.
Please.
Welcome to Monday.
It's only
Hey, at least the Celtics are in the finals.
So, funny story, because we're going to have to pick up from here. I was hoping I was going to just be able to recover or just like use the audio from the camera right next to us, because the ZV one actually does pretty good with that. But we have Kristen on the other line, and no one was going to hear what she was saying, and she actually did most of the talking. So
The first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I failed to hit record on the recorder. So anyways, starting from the top, I'm Josh, one of the owners of Evergreen Creative Company.
I'm Houston, I do stuff.
I'm Hannah. I also do stuff.
That's a good summary. So we'll get into it. And then we have on the line remotely.
I'm Kristen.
And she also does stuff.
That's usually when people are like, what do you do? Stuff.
So even though we'll get into the project more, like we did a content day last week, just going through some of the images, it's going to be one, we made a whole post about why we don't turn over raw footage because like Krista for some reason was like so in sync with my blinks in her shutter.
Taking a picture
Like,
every time.
I had so many like half-eyed or just completely blinked out. So who was it that said that I could be in a horror movie or something like that?
My mom.
So that's going to go right along with that too, because my eyes look pretty.
He could be in a horror movie.
So, anyways, if you're new to the podcast, our goal of this podcast is to recap what we did the previous week, talk about wins, losses, things that we like, things that we do different. So we worked with Adam Davis, and if you're listening to the podcast before, you've heard him come in during the wrap-up portion of the podcast. And so in a nutshell, that project was to try to give him some new assets to work with for his new book coming out, and also just to be able to use it in his social media efforts and things like that. We worked with Adam in the past, long time ago, and it was back when, I think right after I went full-time, I quit my day job kind of stuff, and why am I out of breath?
We all just need to do
It's like
30 seconds of deep breathing and meditation.
moment of silence so I can just catch my breath.
What do you mean? Meditation. What was that?
Deep breathing, like breathing exercise.
Get myself back in the sink. Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, those
Dope.
first 2 episodes were
Dope.
pretty freaking fire. I think it's honestly as good as a movie and the best Star Wars series yet so far.
Dope.
So,
Andor trailer looks pretty cool though.
that's
I don't know
true.
if you saw that, but I loved Rogue One, so I'm super pumped on that show. And it's going to be longer than 8 episodes.
Right. All right. So yeah, Adam Davis. back on track with that. Kristen basically handled this portion of it, and what I was saying was like we worked with them in the past, and it was right after I put in my 2 weeks and all that kind of stuff from my day job, and was able to we worked on a hype video basically, and the kind of events that he goes to are really high energy. So that's the kind of stuff. And it's like the intro video is so that it's like almost WWE style, to where lots of high energy kind of music, effects, things like that. And he comes out on stage and, gets the crowd all amped up. And so that was always fun. I think he's probably due for another version of that. So hopefully we're going to be able to work with him more in the future. There's some potential travels kind of stuff to try to get different assets like that. But Kristen, just briefly talk about the process of going into this photo shoot and some of the, I guess, intention behind it.
Yep. So he originally reached out for just headshots for the back of his new book. But then we kept talking, and he wanted to change from just headshots to the full headshot session, which is where we can do just waist up or full body, couple changes of clothes, things like that. So he has a mix of photos to use in social media. Then we went from that to talking about a full media kit where we could go a couple different locations, include some props and other people and things like that. So that way he would have even more content for his website and social media, and pamphlets and flyers to send off to wherever he's doing his speaking engagements and things like that. But that all kind of it escalated quickly. So we didn't really have time to secure other locations and the books and things like that ahead of time. So that's going to be done later. What else? What else did you tell me to say?
Anything different that you would do with this project? But I think you kind of covered it. It's just like
more planning would be different. Different.
But like on short notice, I think it went pretty well.
Yeah.
The next thing, like, just kind of part of the process with working with us is like we try to do as much pre-production planning as possible. And usually when that happens, the project goes a lot smoother. We're not trying to figure things out as we go. We are flexible and things like that. But part of Monday was a couple of different meetings with some other clients to just try to put together a quote. Most of the time we're doing custom quotes. There's not just like a certain kind of project costs a certain way. It just all depends on what it takes to make it happen kind of stuff. And so we had a couple of meetings to do that. So the next thing that I wanted to just kind of touch on was we have a client that has some meetings recorded. I'm not going to go into details, but while it's not a creative project, it is a service that, we're happy that we can provide for someone. And this person sees the value in that, and we've been working with her for a few months at this point and on a bi-weekly basis. And it's a relatively easy project, not a difficult setup or anything like that. But just as a company, even though like at times like we don't get to work on projects that we would go after per se, it is nice that we're able to take care of people's needs, regardless what our preferences are. Mm-hmm. So the following day, talking about pre-production planning and stuff like that, we worked with Stephen Holland and with Property Champions, which is his company that's local to Dothan, is a real estate company. And what was nice about working with that project was we worked with him on the temple, the Jewish temple project for the recruiting video, that they were trying to recruit another rabbi and other families that are interested in Jewish temple that's in this area. So Stephen, he got to work with us on that project, and he was like the main video host and things like that, and he was the main contact for that whole project. And he got to see what our process was like going into a project, and so that made this new project a little bit easier, because the client knew what he was going into in our just policies, our procedures, and all that kind of stuff. And as I said before, the more planning that you have, the better. You're not trying to figure things out as you go. Everybody's on the same page. You know what you're going into. You know what elements to go after. And so this project, our style is to capture A-roll to where like the scripting is all worked out. It's not off the cuff. It's all, just kind of, sometimes we'll use the teleprompter. Sometimes the talent knows what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of depends on the situation. Either way, the A-roll helps us build out the visual aspect about it. So we're able to match up the video clips and video footage with the stuff that's being said. The beauty of a script being worked out is that you know what to shoot for, versus like in other projects, you just like, yeah, it's about this and it could potentially be used for that kind of stuff. But if you know what you're going into shoot for, like storyboarding, all that kind of planning just really helps out. And so that's pretty much how this went. Is I think Kristen, she was the main point of contact with this project as well, as far as communicating with the client and what's going into it. Steven and Sarah, they stopped in the studio one time and just kind of talked about it as well. So, again, meetings, emails, we use Milanote for storyboarding stuff and building out the project. We were able to build out that script so that way we could come in here to the studio, and I don't think he was even here for 30 minutes.
It was really cool.
It went pretty smooth, not a difficult script or anything like that. And so he was able to knock that out. And then we revisited and went and did some B-roll shots. So, stuff around their office, some different properties. And we're also going to be using some footage from just the general Wiregrass area. And so that project should, like, once we get to the editing, should go pretty well. The hardest part will be picking out music.
Yeah.
So,
It'll take longer than anything we do.
It's crazy how sometimes, like, every once in a while you'll get lucky and it's like the first 5 songs you listen to, there's something that's going to work. Everybody that is part of the project to get on the same page a little bit more. So like our communication just within the company, just to be a little bit more structured and just everybody knowing what's going on. Like I said, Kristen, she was like communicating with the client a lot. She had a lot of notes and things like that. But at times, like, because I didn't have my hands on it as much, I kind of went into it a little bit more question marks. We got everything figured out, but just on the communication side of stuff, I want to see if we can do better on that side of things. Generally speaking, like, I want whatever we do, even if you're not going to be shooting it, being able to put down notes or communicate with each other that anybody can step in and do the project. So that way, in case like an emergency happens, like someone can just step in and just take care of the project versus try to figure out things on the go. So just generally speaking, in period, and that's like even like camera settings wise, that's why I have the custom buttons in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so like on the dial, there's different custom settings like custom mode 1, 2, and 3. And the way that we set that up is like mode 1, it's real-time stuff. So speaking parts or stuff that doesn't have to be slowed down. Basically stuff that's not going to be B-roll. Mode number 2 is our B-roll setting to where we can slow things down if we want to, so on and so forth. So, and I have it set to where it's like the wheels match up what it looks like on the screen. So if I have to explain this to someone that's never touched one of our cameras, it's should be somewhat set to, we could get into an experience that Caleb.
I'll say that he's my neighbor.
Well, you just narrowed it down pretty good.
You said his name.
We have multiple Calebs.
That's true.
Oh, well.
Anyways, Caleb, if you're listening.
Caleb Pinion's my neighbor, too.
That's ish.
Sort of.
Ish.
No.
Down the street.
Like, hop, skip down the road.
Cut that out.
No, Caleb, if you are listening to this, we need to talk. It'll be for the best of everybody. You're not in trouble. But anyways, like the systems and processes, like that's something that I want just period, whether it's communication, camera settings, or whatever, so that way someone can step in there and have a better chance of success. Put it that way. But yeah, like we're working on editing that project, and we might have to do one scene over. Just kind of depends on how we get the edit put together, and go from there. So that was pretty much all of Tuesday. That was a lot going on as far as the company goes.
That was Tuesday.
Wednesday, was a fun day. It's what we call a content day. I can't wait to get this campaign launched. It's going to be at least funny for us. Most people won't even understand
We'll launch
it.
it and no one will care. No.
It's like, I'm not going to spoil the surprise just yet because we're still working on editing some of the assets that we're going to launch this with. So there's that one purpose, but then it's also going to be dual purpose to where we're going to be able to revamp the website a bit, work on our imaging and things like that. So Hannah has been working hard on it's like I thought I did a good job on the website, but then I have someone look at it and she's like, yeah, there's
Teared
this,
it to
there's
shreds.
that. What about this? What about that? It's like,
I'm like, this is not even a sentence.
so what's the who's the person that does like the wording on stuff? What's that official title?
An editor?
The copywriter. There's where the benefit of having someone like that come in and do stuff. But I'll admit it, our website stuff, it was done pretty much on the fly as I went, but I have not updated it in a long time. And that's actually probably the biggest problem, I would say, is it's just not been updated in a while. Like our About video was kind of dual intention to where it was for the ribbon cutting that happened at the time, and it fit the timing for that point in time, but it's definitely time to update even that side of stuff. But we're also working on we are splitting up or sub-branding, I would say, is our weddings side of the business. We see it as a benefit to have its own website. We've done its own social media for a little while now, and that's been pretty beneficial. But that content day, we were working on the corporate website stuff, but also for the weddings website, for bios and just some different things like that. But it's been a work in progress. We're trying to get it done as soon as we can, but nothing comes easy. So it's just time-consuming kind of stuff. It's not terribly difficult kind of things to get done, but it just takes time to do it, on top of trying to take care of all the other things going on. So Wednesday was our content day. We've got plenty of content to work with, for one. It was funny, just with the mishaps. Like, we made a post a while, we don't include raw footage to clients because you're going to get
I forgot we already talked about that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
I don't think it was
Don't spoil
recorded,
it.
so, but
This didn't happen.
I was like, we already talked
We
about
did
it.
Deja
forget to
vu.
hit
It's
record.
like we've talked about this
Deja
like
vu.
7 times.
but we might have done it for this take, but I'm going to say it again because I can't remember what was said or what before what recording. It's been a Monday already. But it was just funny because, like, Kristen, she was taking my photos and just happened to snap the photos half blinking or blinking. And the joke that we were kind of talking about before was last week, Hannah's mom was talking about how, because of the TikTok video that we did, that I could be in like a horror film or something because of just like the straight face that I
She
have.
was like, his stoic face.
Stoic,
Amazing.
whatever. But yeah, some of the photos that were taken, it just looked like I was either possessed or on drugs. So it was funny. But that's like, we would just want to give clients our the good stuff that comes out. There's no point in giving like you could turn around like what we did, but most of the time that's not going to be the case.
Don't want the raw files. If we showed you how many hard drives we have, you would not want them.
And honestly, like that's part of the problem. Like, our raw files are huge. Like, you're going to have to store that somewhere. And then also, it's not like color corrected. It's not, on photo side of stuff, it's not the best of what it could be. So it doesn't show our quality of work either. On the video side of things, like, I've had plenty of times where a client wanted the raw files, and I'm like, okay, I doubt that your computer's going to be able to even read the stuff. And sure enough, like, that's what happens, because when you get into the corporate world, they don't like using Macs, and that's what we use, and that's what's compatible mostly with our stuff. And so it's like, there's this headaches of, can your computer even watch the videos? Is your IT department gonna be flexible and let you download a certain video player just to watch a video? You know, things like that. Uploading it to Drive takes years, so it's like that's not an option. So it's just like there's so many different variables that are reasons why we don't do, or we try not to. There are some projects that it happens, but we do our best not to do the raw files kind of stuff. It's just it's a big headache on that side of things. Also, just we don't like showing our flaws when we don't want to. And that, I mean, if Kristen's on crew, you're going to get a lot of ground shots and a lot of feet.
No, just one or two. Just one or two.
So it's a running joke.
I always got to throw one in where I just flip the camera around and shoot straight up into my nostrils for fun.
It's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, even
You
on
get a lot of
I always do one for fun. Like, I'm not the one that's going to be editing it. Like, it's like I'm leaving a surprise, but then I'm like, I'm going to be the one looking at all this.
Little Easter
Anytime I
eggs.
take photos or videos, half of it is of Houston shooting, and I'm like, oh, BTS.
It's a BTS.
BTS.
She's just fangirling over her husband.
It's just like, I'm the only one who's going to see this.
And they never get used. None of the videos have ever get
Straight to the
We
trash
put it off
can.
to the side, but yeah, we need to use that stuff more. Or like, you guys are always welcome to just take it too.
I don't want it.
Or I remember, yeah,
Yep.
I can't talk straight.
And thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.
The Property Champions shoot, I was using the gimbal and hit the button wrong, and it did the whole selfie mode. So it's just like, get off of me.
It's
Like,
okay. I already got some great BTS footage of you from the property shoot.
Oh yeah,
It's like we were saying, we were mocking up gimbal shoots, or like gimbal pictures for our content day. I'm like, I'm never like this straight back. Like, my posture is never this good with the gimbal. I'm always like hunched over, 14 chins, like looking at the screen in the corner of my eye. It never looks elegant at all.
No. And like chiropractors would be like, this is why your back screwed up.
Honestly,
He
I've been at
has
the
to go to the chiropractor.
See,
Nobody
I
is
used to have
surprised.
to go to the chiropractor a lot. Now I just got a firmer mattress, and now things are slightly better. But I'm also getting old, so.
Yeah, so back to content day.
You don't want to keep talking about chiropractors?
No.
Get ready for some rose petals.
Oh gosh.
I
yeah.
tried to get Josh on the swing, but he
I'm
did
not
not
swinging on that.
He did not go for it.
No. Mm-mm. No.
But see, it would make the most sense for you. Like, if any one of us did it, they'd be like, oh, huh. But if you did it, it would be like...
Maybe I need to take a few shots of gold, and that'll get me going. Kristen, she took a few shots of her. What was the gummy stuff that you made?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just to get yourself loosened up for headshots?
It's so crazy. Like, we put people through the paces all the time, but when it comes to ourselves, it's like
Shooting me
it
was
took
the
for all
worst.
day. Like, if this was a
It's like,
client, I
oh,
swear
yeah,
it would
have
have been
anxiety.
like an hour, maybe 2 hours. But like, we took all day on this.
We advertise all the time. It's quick and easy headshots. And it
Quick,
was our
easy,
turn.
fun process.
Yep, and
In and
then
out.
it was our worst nightmare, and it took 6 hours.
But some of that was
Stick-
also, like Emmett or stuff with the camera or,
He sat down and
Lunch.
took some photos like a good boy.
And we just did photos. Like, we didn't even do video stuff. We talked about trying to do video, but I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that today. Nope. But yeah, I'm looking forward to putting all the stuff out to everybody. Kristen and I did do another TikTok style video. It was not as big of a hit, but we'll keep on trying.
Our buddy Al was not liking it.
Algorithm.
Our buddy Al.
He was not his day. All right, so other projects that we could talk about It's just like the ongoing work with Dothan City Schools. We did a couple more shoots with that to gather more footage. One of the things I do want to talk about and about the certain shoot was Dothan, what DTC, Dothan Tech. No, what do they call that?
I don't know what we're talking about yet.
It's my mind is going blank.
I thought it was just Dothan Tech.
That might be it. It's like their trade school stuff.
Yeah, Dothan Tech is all it is.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't even know we had that.
Which is why I want to talk about it, because like I see in the forums on Facebook, you know, all this like, why do athletes get all this attention? Why don't we put more emphasis on teaching kids trade school kind of stuff, or why are we so heavy on just trying to do the college things? Like, and there's opinions with that, if college is worth it or not. Not going to go into that kind of stuff, but I do want to say, like, one of the things that Dothan City Schools does is a signing day. So when there's different situations, and one of the things that I got to learn about this was previous projects doing a whole video and like recap video about their whole tech center. And it's students that are learning automotive, they're doing welding, there's
graphic design.
Yeah, all the different kind of little trades and stuff. And what's neat about it is that they get to partner with local colleges like Wallace and Troy and places like that to do dual enrollment, to do credits and different certifications. And one of the cool things that I like about it is like using the automotive industry is that they have a system and process to where they graduate, they can step right into a job as soon as they graduate, and they're ready to go into the workforce right away. And there's all kinds of things like that. Speaking like the visual arts kind of stuff, or like graphic design, there's students can get certified in Adobe different projects and things like that, or applications, I should say. And so again, like, you know, even as a company like ourselves, like if we're looking to hire somebody and there's someone that's already qualified to just step right in and not necessarily need training, like that would be amazing. And like for a high schooler just graduating, not having to necessarily go right to college, like sidestep, I think like there needs to be more time to figure things out. You don't necessarily have to go right into college right away. To get things done, and all depends on the industry that you're going into. But like if they have that kind of interest and they've already got the certifications and they already know how to work things, like that's a win-win for the workforce, but also the recent graduate. So they do a signing day to where they get to, you know, they graduate, or there's a company locally or wherever, they basically sign them on as an employee. And so like that's like signing.
They call it a letter of an intent. Letter of intent.
You're right. So kind of like in the same, they try to give as much attention to that, or they try to give us attention to that as if like a athlete is signing with a college to go play, you know, a sport of some sort. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty cool program, and we got to capture that on video to be able to use for the recruitment video. But you know, we'll have that also documented just to see that. But what I've appreciated just on like civilian side of it is that I got to witness that, I get to see that. And so as a company, like when someone asks a question, like, why don't we have these programs, or why don't we put an emphasis on this? Like we do.
I wish I would have had something like that coming out of high school. I mean, I went to college. Mm-hmm. I didn't finish. Like I literally am like 9 credit hours away from my degree. Mm-hmm. Wish I would have never gone. It was a waste of time for me. I learned more on YouTube and real world experience than I did.
But you need to finish because you have 9 credits left.
That's true. A degree would look good on some theoretical resume that I won't need, but I don't know.
Put it on your IMDb.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's neat that we get to be part of these kind of projects, because we get to, like you said, you didn't know that those programs are like that. Mm-hmm. Granted, you're kind of new to the area still,
less than a year.
I see that even with people that have lived in the area for such a long time, they still don't know about these programs. So we get to be part of an effort to try to make those things known. And that's a big deal to me.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. How were the apple pies?
They have not been consumed yet.
Really?
No. We got back So might as well talk about this. Me and Kristen picked up a fun item that took
That's
That
so
sounds
vague.
weird.
It's so
That
vague.
sounds
It's so
really weird.
but it took 8 hours to get it from one place to another. But yeah, we got in late, and I was able to catch the second half of the Celtics game, so that was my focus. And then Kristen and I watched Stranger Things, episode and a half of that.
Oh, I forgot that.
I
is
thought
really
about
good.
it because I texted my mom and I was like, hey, we just mentioned you on the podcast. She was like, oh, like the apple pies? And I was like, no. How you said that Josh looks like he could be in a horror movie.
That's funny. I don't even know what the intention of them, other than obviously eating them, if they're for a certain purpose.
Well, I
Memorial Day.
figured I figured one could be for our birthday, and the other one
Do
I
you
didn't
share
want
a
to.
birthday?
The studio birthday.
Well,
Oh.
Kristen's birthday is June 9th. Mine's June 10th.
Oh, I
Mine's
thought we were
the
talking about
18th.
studio
Josh,
birthday.
My birthday.
My birthday is not June 9th.
11th. I'm sorry. No. There's so many birthdays
Josh
that
is
there's.
sweating.
No, I was like, huh? Oh yeah, 11th. Hers is the 11th. I'm so sorry.
Mine's the
I was
18th.
the 9th has been talked about so much for one as the company thing, but also like I've got my old youth pastor's wife, Becky, is the 9th, so I always say 9, 10, 11. That's the problem.
Mine
It's
is
also
the-
Monday, and things aren't working, including my brain.
Mine
so
is the 18th. So,
the 18th.
yeah, of June.
Cool. So June's a heavy birthday month for Evergreen, but
Yeah, totally missed that Stranger Things came out. Got overshadowed by Obi-Wan for me.
I mean, it was a good show drop week or so.
With those,
But back to apple pie though.
yeah, I was about to say, with those apple pies, if you're saving them, you can put them in the freezer, and they'll last.
But it's like anytime that they're offered, it's 100% worth just grabbing them for whatever.
Those apple pies are a trigger
It's
food for me.
I know. I told
ridiculous
Houston,
how
I was
good they
like,
are.
I
I was
had
like,
to-
we can get one if you want, and he was like, it's a trigger food. I can't.
Like, if there's not, like, more people than just us to help us consume it, I'm consuming 90% of it, and it's a problem.
And put it with some like homemade vanilla ice cream.
Don't even tell me
Listen,
that.
when
Don't even tell me
Houston,
that.
about 2 weeks after Houston and I first started dating, it was Christmas, and so among other things,
Secret is that's why he married you.
I made him an apple pie,
Seal the deal.
and literally his roommates were trying to pay him for slices of
Like,
it.
it carries a reputation everywhere it goes, these
Dude,
apple
it's
pies.
so good. It's ridiculous.
Like, her
So good.
grandmother threatened my dad that if he ever
His
found
dad
out the
was trying to
recipe,
figure
that
out the
he would wake up
recipe.
in a van.
And my grandmother was like, "You will wake up in a van. Like, if you wake up, you will be
if
in
you
a
wake
van."
up, that's fun. It's that level. It's that. Mm-hmm.
I like it.
What
why
else?
is there not one at the studio right now?
Well,
'Cause
they're
they're
at
in
your
your freezer.
house, so your fault.
Kristen's like, you wanted me to work at home.
What else did we do?
You left me here with these kids.
Do
I
not
had a
let them.
terrible
Do not let them. They will. Olivia might appreciate it. I don't know about the other two. Emmett, he
Yeah, I was
will.
about to say.
Oh, man.
Mm.
Look, fruit-based desserts are my jam.
They're not my jam.
Oh,
Pun.
but okay. But that's my thing.
They're not my thing, but I do love the apple pie.
And you make a mean apple pie.
Thank you.
It's like we got a couple big surprises. It's like I want to say more about it, but we went to go see the thing that we picked up on Sunday on Thursday.
Are we waiting for some kind of reveal for it?
Yeah, I mean, if you know us, you might have seen some. There's like very few people know about it. And I just don't want to jump the gun and say too much just yet because it's almost ready. Like there's some work that needs to be done, put it that way, for, well, I mean, both projects. But as soon as possible, it'll be out there. And I'm pretty excited about the two of them. on the back end of stuff, like Houston all day Thursday worked on just hard drive management.
Yeah.
And as mundane as that sounds, it's just one of those things you have to do.
We learned a lot in switching our entire office away from Premiere Pro and the Adobe subscription model. I mean, we still use like Lightroom and Photoshop, things like that, but moving to...
So if you're a Final Cut user, you need to pay attention to this part.
Which maybe this is common knowledge, and
it's probably common
probably
knowledge.
just dumb, but
everyone knows that.
The way that Premiere and
we
Final
need to make
Cut,
a YouTube video, actually, just to...
The way that they handle files and that kind of thing was a little different, and we were just blowing through hard drives with all of our project files.
Because the project files were just as much space as the regular media files.
Yeah, we were having like project files that were like 200-300 gigabytes, and it wasn't until like I was in a few Final Cut Pro groups on Facebook that I found out that because it's just part of Final Cut that background rendering is on by default, you just get massive render file folders in your projects.
Right.
So going back into our backup hard drives, into the project files, looking in the package contents, and just deleting all those render files would take project files from like 300 gigs to like 250 megabytes.
Like ridiculous. And that's one of the things I liked about Premiere Pro was you could just take the project file and put it with your original media, and you have everything that you need if you need to go back into the project. So that was I would say a lifesaver, or it's going to be, because I was to the
Still
point
working
like
through it,
it's like I don't want to spend more money on these freaking hard drives. This is getting ridiculous. Like we have stacks of hard drives. It's so dumb. Anyways, it's going to work out, but we still have more work to kind of chew through on that end of stuff.
I mean, that's all I did Thursday was just drag, drop, delete.
But it's just stuff has to be done. But we can at least incorporate those steps now into when we're done with the project. We can just go into that,
delete the render files before backing it up, and background render is turned off.
Right. So
because we don't need that with most of our M1 computers.
Right. So yeah, that was pretty much the week. Lots happened. We're coming off of somewhat of a busy season, but we are excited about some future projects coming up, and we'll talk about those more when they come more closer to us. We've got a lot of planning to do. That's like the next steps is to get all that worked out, and pretty excited about working with Wiregrass Safety. Like that's one of the big projects coming up. It's going to be one of those all year round kind of stuff. We'll do some short-term stuff, but it's definitely a long-term project, so we're really excited about that. Going to get to do some fun shoots. There's SWAT involved, firing ranges, canines, underwater rescue stuff. They have like a whole pond with a car in the water, so that's like how they practice to do rescues.
You got to get a housing. Waterproof housing.
Yep. And so lots of fun stuff like that coming up pretty soon that we're really excited about. But other than that, any thoughts, Kristen, on how last week went? Anything different or whatever?
No, it was a complete blur, in my opinion.
It's like I literally have to go back through the calendar. I'm like, okay, that's what happened, and this is what happened.
Monday, I don't remember a single thing that happened.
The weekend pretty much triumphed last week. So.
Yeah, it flew by for sure. So pro tip, I want to talk about pre-production planning, and I'm just going to reiterate what we said before. And this applies to if you are a creator, company, or the client. Is the more pre-production planning that you get, the smoother the project will be. There's rarely ever a time where we go through all the pre-production stuff and just tanks. Like everything works out pretty well. And we're flexible. Like we come up with ideas on the spot as well. So that's part of the process. But just being able to work through the plans that were already in place, everybody knows what to expect, and you're able to accomplish it. It's a better client experience. It's a better experience for ourselves.
It's only going to make the shoot day easier.
Exactly. So the more pre-production planning, the better. And it's just worth taking the time to just sit down, like hammer it out for an hour at least, and to go over all that kind of stuff. And the thing, like, also with our pre-production planning is it's part of like your marketing strategy. It's part of your messaging strategy and things like that. So we're not technically a marketing agency, but we do marketing. Like our goal is to communicate the message that the client wants done. And so like we have to go through what kind of video, what kind of photo, like, is it going to be vertical? Is it going to be horizontal landscape? You know, all those different kind of variables and factors, like how is this going to be produced or distributed, I should say. How is this going to be distributed so we can produce it the right way? So, yeah, pre-production, it's worth it. It's part of our services. Like, that's part of the pricing and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go over what we think is going to work and just hammer out the details. And it's just worth it. So there's your pro tip for the week. All right, now to get to work. This went way longer than what it should have. Take 3.
I think last week it was like a 30-minute flat podcast.
Pretty much.
But that was only because we had a client coming in. So.
And the recording time at the moment is 45 minutes on the recorder. But, yeah. All right.
All right,
Have a good week. See you. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We appreciate you watching or listening. If you find value from this podcast, please leave a review. It helps rank us up into the podcast algorithms. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show and share some of your project experiences, let us know, reach out, and we'll be happy to have you on the show, get you scheduled on. If you're a client and want to work on a project with us, there's contact information down below in the video description. We're looking forward to hearing from you and see what your ideas are and see how we can potentially be a fit to make your project happen. Until then, we'll catch you next episode.